some people don't want your kids to interact with the carpenter, I don't know. They're like, no, don't talk, whatever. I'm like, no, talk to them.
Yep.
They're the ones that are doing the work. I want you to be so super friendly to these guys because
Yep.
these guys are doing the work.
Yep.
They're the ones that are taking the nails out, and
Yep.
they're the ones that are doing it. So do whatever we can to be as kind and nice to these guys because they're working hard.
Welcome back to the What Went Wrong podcast, where we tell the untold stories of bouncing back from failure. I am your host, Tabatha Thorell, and today we have another amazing guest, Jaclyn Strominger, and she is a high performance coach. Guys, buckle up because her story is incredible. She is someone that has a deep desire to help other people reach the next level, and then the level above that, and then another level. She loves seeing people soar, and she has a calling for this. She's an amazing coach, but we all know that Jaclyn did not start there. So Jaclyn, welcome to the show and tell us what went wrong.
So thank you for having me on the show, Tabs. And I literally, as you're saying that, I'm just like, oh my God, so much went wrong. It's not even funny. And I have to say my journey to here, like all of our journeys, has been an evolution. Mm-hmm. So, if we look back where I started, I had this, looking at the really pretty picture and somebody looking in, I had this great career. I left college. I knew what I wanted to do. I was going to go into magazine publishing. And then I had this, I was always looking for something else. I was looking for that mentor, that coach, never got it, but I kept moving up. Mm-hmm. And I kept like, I can transition and change myself and move into a different career like in a nanosecond. So honestly, like if somebody's ever interested in that, that's one of the things that I do. But where my journey went was I was evolving and I was working, I got married, had kids. We all know that story. You like, what do you do now? And as whether you're a mom or a dad, once kids come into the picture, things change. I've always been, I have to have my own career. I have to have my own income. Well, my career is going great. And I evolved into, one of the stints that I transitioned into was recruiting, started my own recruiting business, realized there was such a need for people to create their mission and to have the mentor that I was always looking for. Mm-hmm. So I ended up getting into coaching with, a couple of different companies, and things were going great. I had my kids, but this is where I had my crazy moment.
Yeah.
I'm driving my kids to their school, and it's a 25-minute drive. It is pouring rain, and I'm driving in my car, and I'm used to love like the noise and the chatter in the back and hearing them, chit chat.
Yep.
And I'm driving, and I felt like the car was really driving itself, which is a little scary too. We've all been there, I know.
Yep.
And I think Katy Perry's song Roar was on. So if you haven't listened to it recently, it was actually on the other day, and it was like, it literally like slapped me in the face. And I literally had this thing like, what am I doing? Like this, what went wrong was my life. I'm going to cry. Because
that's
my
okay.
life,
just go
life,
there.
right?
Just go. We're here. This is a therapy session, right? Like, go there.
But my life was wrong. It was really wrong. I felt like I was driving and there was no direction anymore in my life. I had lost my way. And I wasn't, it's not that I never set goals or that I didn't have any of those things. I was doing all that, but somewhere along the line, I just lost my inner gut power, exuberance for what I was doing, and just felt like my life is wrong at the moment. And I'm listening to the song. I get my kids to school. I drive home and I sit down in my chair at my desk and by the way, I live in Reno, Nevada now. I was living in Boston, outside of Boston.
Mm.
And my husband's a physician, so I would go, he would go in and out of Boston. And I literally sat at my desk and said, I'm like, I have to make a change. And I wasn't sure literally if it was like cut the cord on my, like me leave with my kids and leave my husband,
Yeah.
or is it, what do we do to shift and what do we do to change? Because what we were doing right now was not going to sustain, and I couldn't keep it up.
Can I ask you one
And
thing, just
yeah,
because you're right here in the depth of the story? Usually I don't interject, but just because I feel like there's a lot of women that could be there right now. And was it a numbing feeling? Was it like going through the motion? Was it this, like what I say, the quiet desperation? Like, take us a little bit to how you felt there. Cause I feel like there's so many women listening here that are like, I feel that way, but I can't articulate it. And sometimes when we can't articulate it, then we can't fix it. We can't
yep,
change
yep.
it.
So I did. I felt it was almost like all of those things. Like a part of me felt like I was just there and existing, and
Okay.
that we that as a relationships go through many different phases, just like our life.
Yes.
And I realized, for me, it was this feeling that we were no longer connected, that we
Mm,
were missing something,
yep.
and that as a family unit, like we were all going and doing our things, but we weren't doing anything together.
Mm, yeah.
And so it was this,
How old were your kids at the time?
my kids were fifth and going into fifth grade and going into seventh grade. So
Okay. 12
12
and
and 10,
14. 10,
12 and
12.
10
Yeah.
and 12, yeah,
Okay.
right around there. Um, and the other part was, for me, the other part that I was feeling, I was numb. I was numb to like what was going on. I was just not, I was on the outside. Was like, I was here on the outside and I wasn't in it anymore. Like we were just going through. And and what awakened me was, this is not how we started off. And I know that, and it was the same thing in my career and what I was doing. Like everything was just moving, but not like, but we were just kind of like almost like going in circles, or you could say putting on the hamster wheel, right? We were going in that hamster wheel and we're going and going, but we weren't taking the time to sit and reflect and figure out, like, is this where we want to be? And
Mhm.
so in that moment, I said, okay, I'm the change agent in my family.
Mhm.
I'm the one that's the driver. I'm the visionary. So what's the vision? And I literally started writing, and I literally wrote out everything that I wanted. And key thing was, it wasn't what I needed, it was what I wanted. What did
Mhm.
I want to have happen in my life? What did I
Yes.
want to have happen for the kids? What did I want to have happen for my career? What did I want to have happen for my marriage and our family? And where did we want to go? And I literally spent the entire day writing. And when my husband came home, I said to him, I shared with him, and I'm going to be honest, like I was afraid. Like
Yeah.
that's where, like, I'm like, oh my God, am I going to actually share this? Like, because I had also realized that I had stopped sharing because I was almost afraid to,
Yeah. Vulnerable. Like,
yeah,
to be
I
vulnerable when you're not connected, that vulnerability, you kind of put the walls up because you're not sure how it's going to be received. And if you don't know exactly what you want, we we get defensive because we don't know what we want. And so if somebody comes at us and says something,
right.
it's like we can't defend it, we can't justify it however what we want. So it's that vulnerability. Yeah, I totally
Yeah. And
understand that.
so I was scared, and I said, this is what I did today. Like I didn't do any work. I just sat and wrote. I got the kids. But I came to the conclusion that we have to make a change as a family,
Yeah.
and we have to do something different. And one of the things that was going to be different, and I said, we have to change our environment. We have to do something different. You leave in the morning, you don't, like at 5:30, 5 o'clock, it kept getting earlier because, if you ever been to Boston, the traffic is horrific.
Oh, yeah.
right? And you're coming home and you're sleeping on the couch. And I have a lot of my clients at night. And so we're doing this, we're like, we are two ships passing in the night,
Yep.
And we're not even, we're not even colliding. I mean, anyway,
Right. Like
like,
you're just passing. There's no even like side swipe or nothing.
yeah, there's nothing. Right. So I said, you're the one that needs to switch jobs. I can work anywhere. I can go anywhere in the United States. It doesn't matter. So if you are down with this, we need to start finding a different position. And we had been sort of looking, but it escalated.
Right.
And so this was literally March, beginning of March. By fortuitously, um, my husband was at a conference, literally, I think a week and a half later, and somebody had put a post-it note up on saying, I'm looking for a partner. And right. So like,
Yeah.
and I'm like, okay, where? And
Right.
he's like, Reno, Nevada. And I'm like, huh?
That's a
Like,
big change from Boston.
so I do what okay, let me just check out Reno, Nevada. I'm like
Right. Yep.
Googling, right?
Yep. Where are the good
And
places to live and schools
I'm
and
like,
all that stuff.
where does Reno, Nevada rank on best places to live,
Yes. Yep.
economy, blah, all that stuff. So I looked at it and said, okay, we're gonna go because it meets some of our criteria. Now we're big skiers.
Hmm.
We had this great skiing community because we would ski up in New Hampshire. So that was going to be painful to leave, but so Reno met all those things. It's close to Lake Tahoe. We're literally 20 minutes to Lake Tahoe and great
Awesome.
skiing, outdoor hiking, blah, and in 2018, the housing it
Yeah.
was slowly creeping up, but it wasn't as crazy as it was
No.
now. So I'm like, perfect time to come in, whatever.
Yeah.
So literally we came out here. I'm a big family person and I never miss family events, but there was a wedding that weekend. So I called them and I said, hey, we are not going to be at this wedding. It breaks my heart. We have to go. This is the only weekend we can go. So it literally is a year. It would be 2018. So 6 years ago, this coming weekend. Um, so Memorial Day weekend, 2018, we went out to Reno and we looked around, we explored, we went up to Tahoe. We had a great time. My husband met with people, you know, and we found a house that we liked. It would need a shiitake ton of work. Um, but we came back and I do a I used to do a dark and stormy party for my birthday every year, which is June 4th, and my husband's birthday is May 31st. So there's four of us in a room
Yeah.
because if you're thinking about Geminis. Um, and we had this big, huge party with everybody, all of our friends. And I would go, we're going to move. We're moving to Reno. And they all were like, no, you're not. You're just pulling our leg. I'm like, no, we're moving. And um, literally, so that's June 4th, August 2nd, cars packed. We're moving across the country.
Done.
2 months. People think I'm nuts. They're like, how did you do it? And I did it because I redefined my mission and I had such a strong drive as to what I thought this was going to do for our family. And I haven't looked back, and it has really been, there's always the good, the bad, and the ugly that comes with anything.
Hmm.
But honestly, it has been the best thing that we've ever done. My business soared. My husband has a 15-minute commute.
Hmm.
We have a house that we were able to gut and make our own. Our property, which we discovered after we moved in, has a ton of fruit trees
Nice.
and 107 vines. So we were making wine.
One more.
That's really a trouble thing, right?
Right.
Um, yeah. You have to our white's really good. Our reds, we're kind of, that's a whole other story. But red is harder to make. But it was it is one of those things that it was when you realize what's wrong, and it hurts. It really hurts. It
Yeah.
hurts when you, like, for me, it was painful to realize, like, this is my life and I've forgotten about it. And
Mm-hmm.
I need to flip that switch, because my life shouldn't be wrong. I don't want to get to the end and be like, my life was all wrong.
Right.
And so it does, it's mission, it's your vision, it's getting buy-in from the people that are around you,
Yep.
but it's also having courage to know that it's okay to shift. And that was the one thing that I kept, like, every mile that we moved away from Boston, it was like, okay, it's the next mile to the new beginning. It's the
Yeah.
next mile to restart. It's the next mile that life, there may be hiccups and it might not all be roses, but I know that it's going to be so much better for our family, because it met all the things that we needed, which was being able to come together,
Right.
because we weren't going in separate directions. We
Right.
weren't going to have my husband, driving an hour every morning and an hour every evening to and from work.
Right. Did you know the number one way to build wealth is through real estate? Have you always wanted to buy your first income property, but you didn't know where to start? Join my group, Legacy Wealth Builders, where we will teach you how to buy your first income property and then keep your wealth by teaching the success and wealth principles to your kids. Because it's not just about building your wealth, but it's about keeping it for generations to come. So click the link, join our group, because for the month of June, the group is free. So get all the training you need and join the group now. So
It,
what I love about your story is that your moment of the what went wrong, whenever we have to look in the mirror and look at our life and be like, something's not right,
yeah,
it's hard because it's a lot of the choices that we make, right? So like we only have ourselves to blame, to give, guilt and shame and all that. And it's not meant to be that way. It's meant to look at it in non-judgment and be like, the choices that I made were the best choices that I could make at that moment, in that mental capacity and that physical capacity, what I thought, even if it was that numbing. Maybe you needed to feel that, to not feel it because of trauma from the past, right? So like we have these coping mechanisms, and we make these choices because of things that have happened to us. And so what you're telling the audience here is like, in my moment, I had two choices. I could take the kids and leave my marriage, which obviously you had love and devotion and you didn't want to do that. But when you're at this crossroads, when you feel this way, and some of you guys listening, like, even if you're male, you might be thinking this, there's a reason why they say midlife crisis, because you get to a point where you're like, I can no longer have the excuses of the immaturity. And you see that the finish line, because as you get older and your kids get older and you see that, it comes together. And so you have to make those decisions, those choices, and saying, what do I really want? So what you're saying is, I went to the drawing board. You need to go to the drawing board and you need to say, what vision do I want for the rest of your life? I don't care if you're 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. Like if you're 70, you could still live another 50 years. I think the oldest person on earth is what, like 120? I don't even know. When you look
right.
at it that way, you have 50 years of impact that you can make. And I think older people make the biggest impact because they're so wise that people listen to them, you know?
Right.
And so
Yeah.
looking at your life and saying, what do you want? I loved what you said about, these were the things I wanted. And I think that's so important for people to catch, because I feel like, especially women, we feel guilt if it's just something we want. Like we have to justify it. We have to rationalize it. Like, oh, I want that shirt, but I want it only because like I can wear it to church and then I can wear it to the wedding and I can spend, however much money, $150, and then I could wear it here. And it's really, we instead of just saying, I want the shirt, I
Right.
earned the shirt. I made the money for the shirt. I want time with my family. And here's the thing, you really needed that. Like your soul needed it.
Yes.
It really did. Some people on the outside could have said, oh, your marriage is fine. He has a great job. You have all the fancy things. But what you did need that. Your soul needed that, because we spell love Time. No matter how much, like they always say kids do, all humans do.
Yeah.
because when you're together, you feel it. You're connect. Like you said, you weren't connected.
Yeah.
And when you're
And
not
connection
connected,
is so big. That
so big.
human connection is so important. And and
Yes. If we learned
it's
anything from COVID, it was that we need to be connected.
right. And I think the other thing that's also really important, it's also it's being connected and having conversations. Like like
Yes.
this is great. I love this. And I always want to say to people, if somebody reaches out to you and says they want to connect, just connect. Even
Just
if it's
connect.
for 5 minutes, even
Right.
if it's for 10 minutes, or set the time, because that human connection,
Yes.
it really fills our cup. And when we don't have it,
Yep.
and it's it really obviously does take a toll, as COVID, it showed with COVID. and and I what I think, if as a person who is in their 50s, um one of the things that I share with my kids is that, as much as we love our phones, they do so much for us. Use it for what it was meant to be, which is
Yes.
literally to dial and talk to
Call
somebody.
somebody, talk
Call
on the
somebody.
phone. They're like, they don't know that concept. Like a phone was meant to talk. And they're like, what?
Right, right.
What's that?
Because having conversations, it also helps you understand how to express yourself and be vulnerable to somebody else versus hiding behind a text.
Yes.
And I think that was almost like one of the things, like when I was going through that day of like writing everything down, one of the things that I wrote was talk time. Like, we needed talk
Yes.
time. We needed time to talk and connect as a family, as individually, with my kids, with my husband. And it was so important. We can't just hide behind a text message. The text message saying I love you is very different from me saying to you in person I love you. It's
It's
very
way different. I mean,
different.
yeah, it's the tone of the voice, it's how we hear it, it's the expression, especially when you can be face to face, because it's like, touch their hand, look in their eyes. There's such authenticity there. There's that vulnerability. And when you can, especially with husband and wife, and as you know, when you have kids and you get older and you have business, you have things, and you don't take that time to just be, then it is that disconnect. And I believe the husband and wife, they are the foundation of everything.
Yep.
Even that husband's career, it will thrive so much more when that marriage is connected. And it's
Yep.
funny because my husband, I don't know if you heard it on a podcast or read it, but he said we're supposed to kiss for 6 seconds. Like, there's a study that shows when you kiss, because how many times you come in and quick little,
Right.
whatever, and it's taking that time, or hug for 6 seconds or whatever. And I'm a hugger. So it's like, we'll hug and like hold it and we kind of laugh, but it makes it fun. It makes it playful. And it does bring an intentionality to it.
Yeah.
That 6 seconds of like connecting, not just quick pass. So, I mean, I love that. I know that it's not easy to share this, because sometimes, and even admitting, saying like, I almost left my husband, like saying that, even if you've worked through that, I mean, it's always hard to look at that and say, but that was the reality of where I was at.
Yeah.
And that led me to the what went right, because it led you to sit down and write. It kind of reminds me a little bit of when Tony Robbins was in business. He had a business partner that burned him, like ruined his reputation, took all this money. And he actually said the reputation was the thing that hurt more. He's like, take all the money. But he was like telling people that Tony was, it was when he was doing a lot of seminars, like Tony didn't show up. Well, he didn't know about him. His business partner set him up and didn't tell him. So anyways, this big, like, his reputation was on the line. People thought that Tony was kind of a fraud to follow through. And he was so mad. He wanted to like literally murder this business partner. And his friend was like, no, you need to go away and be remote and like just get yourself together. And so he went and he like locked himself in a hotel room. And that's where he wrote Date with Destiny, which is like his, flagship project.
Right.
He just wrote, he's like, I barely ate for like 48 hours. He just wrote this program because everything that had happened until that point, he was like, why would this guy do this? Like, we were partners, like there was money coming in. What was it? But that's what got him to the what went right. And look at where
Yep.
that's at. So yours was hard and it was gut wrenching. And I'm sure sometimes when you go back, it's like you were getting emotional,
Oh,
like it still hurts.
it still hurts. And it's crazy. And so it's funny because what I did is I took that time and I said, okay, well, what did I do? What did I have to do to make this leap? Which is kind of also like where I came with my company, which was level up your communication.
Yeah.
So communication that you say to yourself, it's your mission statement. It's your affirmation that you say to yourself in the morning. It's the communication that you have like with your team, with your family. You know, if you're in business, it's the
Yes.
message that you're resonating with your company. And then it's the energy that you're putting out forth, which is the E in that, which is like, how am I showing up today? Am I showing up, do I have a smile on my face or
Yeah.
do I have a frown? Where is that energy coming from? And how do I look at people? Am I looking at things as like, it's all about me? Or is it, if you can come at things like, I I'm a firm believer, like in my upbringing, because we're all part of our upbringing is such a huge part of our lenses. When I was brought up, and this was a big shift for me, which was, um, and anybody who knows me, when I was growing up, it was all about me. Everything was about me. Everything was about how I could succeed, because that's how I grew up. It was never like when I looked back at my family, that was the vision and the lens that I looked. If my parents wanted to get something, it was all about them, and so that was what I adopted because that's what I knew.
Uh-huh.
And it wasn't until I realized, no, it's better off if we operate out of the team environment, which is together everyone achieves more, and the
Yes.
energy that we bring, where we
Yes.
operate as a team, or how can I better, even better, take it that go giver level, which is
Yeah.
how can I operate and just be more of a giver, because it's going to come back.
Oh, yeah.
It's that boom, right?
Yes. And parenting's the same way. It's like when your family is thriving together, everything is going so much better. And we're teaching entrepreneurs this right now of bring your family in on the vision. Like
Yes.
bring them in, share the vision because kids just see you work and that's great. And work ethic, teach them that and all those things, but teach them why. Bring them in, make them excited, have a family vacation,
Yeah.
do a project together. Like me and my husband, we just bought a pontoon to renovate as if we don't have anything else to do. But like, I'm like, get the kids in, come on. Like, we're going to strip this thing and we're going to, bring them together and they're going to gripe about it a little bit, but they're so excited. What I will always bring them back is how much fun we're going to have on the lake with this thing.
Right.
Like, all this fun, sun tanning, going off the slide, pulling the little tube, like anytime they get tired or don't want to do the work of it, I'm going to say, but guess what's going to happen at the end of this?
Right.
And I think it's so important to bring that family element, even if you have like a husband, your husband's a career, like he has a profession. So that's a little different than like the online entrepreneur or the bricks and
Right.
mortar entrepreneur, right? Even if he is a partner and kind of an entrepreneur, like when you have a profession like physician or lawyer or teacher, you have to clock in, clock out. You have certain times that you want to go there, but you can still teach your kids, like even with that, his mission, his vision, and why they, what I always tell kids is like, you are allowing your dad, like, thank you for letting us borrow your dad. Because somebody phrased that to me and my husband. They said,
Yeah.
thank you for they wrote a note to our kids. It was so cute. They said, thank you for letting us borrow your parents so that they can be better leaders for your family. And then they sent him a gift. And I think that was such a cute way to frame it. It's like,
Yep.
we are borrowing because like they're my parents, kids are like, those are mine, like you're taking them away.
Right.
I want them, right? And so when you can bring it to like their giving, like showing their selflessness, like, no, we're gonna let daddy go and do this because he needs to go and do this thing and help the people and all that stuff, it gives them a sense of ownership rather than it's like daddy's just taking time away.
But it also gives it, and it's so true. And it also, I think, helps give when you share the vision as to what the parent is doing when they go off to work. or they share what they're doing. Like as an entrepreneur, like if I work for me, like working out of my house,
Uh-huh.
as you said, you create the vision and you let them know, like by doing these things, we're going to be able to do X, Y, or Z.
Yep.
It was like, but when you're doing that, if somebody's clocking in to that job or that,
Yep.
going to work as the lawyer, the attorney, I mean, you get the same thing, but,
Yep.
physician, whatever they're doing, that also helps give them pride as to like, hey, my dad's doing this and helping people. Like
Yes.
let them know that he's helping people now so that when he can come back, he can do things with us. You know,
Exactly.
and when we moved across the country, we didn't just like drive nonstop. We stopped and we visited people, but we also made it an experience because
Yes.
we went to Mount Rushmore.
Oh, I
So,
love that.
and then when we got the house, it was the kids. I said to we painted that same vision. We're going to be able to take this house and this property, and we're going to be able to make it our own. It's horrific right now.
Right. But see the vision.
but
See the vision.
right, but they got excited. I mean, and then they were in the process, like when we started ripping down the walls. I mean, some people don't want your kids to interact with the carpenter, I don't know. They're like, no, don't talk, whatever. I'm like, no, talk to them.
Yep.
They're the ones that are doing the work. I want you to be so super friendly to these guys because
Yep.
these guys are doing the work.
Yep.
They're the ones that are taking the nails out, and
Yep.
they're the ones that are doing it. So do whatever we can to be as kind and nice to these guys because they're
Yes.
working hard.
Yes.
And they got excited. Like they would come in and they would
Good.
high five them and they would like get to know the guys. And
I
I
love
mean,
it.
so they became part of our family, but it's painting that vision. And so one of the things that I share is what can you do and how do you make sure that you don't get back on, like for me, to how do I make sure I don't get back on that wheel of just where the wheel
Right.
is driving or my car is driving
Yep.
itself and I'm just going through the motions. And that's really for me. I do a mission statement exercise, every 6 months, and I rewrite out my mission because that mission statement is includes the things that make up my core values, my superpowers,
Yep.
and it resonates with me. And so I always want to make sure that I'm reading it every day, but then every 6 months I literally take the time and say, okay, guess what? It's time to recalibrate. Like just want to make sure we're staying on the same path. And and the one thing that I want to share is that when this was happening with my life and I was like, when I driving across, driving my kids to school, the other thing that I had also had a huge realization about was 3 years before that, I was working in the corporate world.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember somebody said something like, oh, that's not going to help your career. And it was a light bulb moment that went off in my head. I was like, oh my God, career. I had stopped thinking about my career. I had just been going through the motions. I used to be on this trajectory of
Uh-huh.
where I was going to go in my career. And then it became, no, now I'm a parent and it's more about the income. And it was a job. um, don't
Good job.
yeah. and and it was then too that it wasn't as big of a moment, but it was I mean it was something that I obviously remember because it
Right.
was like it's stuck in my head. I'm like, oh, I forgot about my career.
Right. Forgot about my dreams. I forgot really what I wanted. And it became about everybody else or just paying the bills, just getting by, just having filler time, that kind of stuff. And I think so many of the listeners on here can really resonate with that, especially, the 35 to 50 age group. It's like, when did I just start living through my kids' dreams or through
Right.
what everybody else wanted? And so, I mean, again, thank you so much, Jacqueline, for your story, for your wisdom. Where can they find you? Where can our audience look you up? Do you have any upcoming projects? Tell them about that.
So where you can find me, the best place, well, there's, I would say a couple of great places to find me. One is go to my website. It's leaptoyoursuccess.com. And when you get there, wait like 2 seconds, there's going to be a little pop-up. And there is a Unstoppable Achievers journal, which actually includes exercises to create your mission statement.
Oh, nice.
Really look at your core values so that you can actually know what your true north is. So grab that, it's digital. And then with that comes a free complimentary session so that you can we can hone in on your mission statement and kind of create an action plan
Mhm.
around it. So go to my website, leaptoyoursuccess.com. And then you can find me with my name, Jaclyn Strominger, on Facebook, on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram, but not as much. But Facebook and LinkedIn are where I pretty much hang out these days. And then for projects for me that are coming up, I do a training every single week in my Facebook group, which
Okay.
is Unstoppable Achievers, the 1% Edge. So go there, go in there. It's a free training. And this week we're actually talking about your vision and mission. Um,
Perfect.
yep. And then in September, I'm really excited about this. I am doing a retreat up here in Tahoe. So,
I was gonna
um,
say you have to have some retreats up there. Like you have like beautiful country, like bring the people. Okay, that'll be awesome. And
so
guys, we
this
will
will,
have all the links
yeah,
too. So like as you're listening, if you're like, oh, I'm driving or exercising, we'll have the links. Click on that, check that out. And I'm sure all your upcoming events will be on your website as well.
yep, yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you again so much, Jacqueline. And guys, remember that wherever you're at in your life right now, if you're in the what went wrong, if you're struggling, remember that if you just have perseverance and you persist towards whatever it is that you're called to do, and you just take one day at a time, one step at a time, the what went wrong will lead to the what went right. Just give it a little bit of time. Until next time, bye, guys.